Hello, welcome to this time's edition of the Monthly Mystical. Today we have Adrien Mastrosimone, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He'll probably tell me off. But hey ho. Right, so we're going to get going, get cracking. He's going to be talking about the Marseille Tarot and possibly some other stuff. We should just get chatting and see where it takes us. Let's go. Right, where are you? There we go. And there we go. Oh, look at that. And there he is. Hi, Adrien. I just done my introduction. I think I might have got your last name. I can never say it right. Say your last name for us all.
Well, it depends. It depends. Hi, everyone. It depends which country you are. I grew up in France. We say Mastrosimone.
Oh my
But
gosh.
the Italians would say Mastrosimone, and then usually in English-speaking country they would go with a bit more English American accent and say Mastrosimone. So
none of that. I didn't say it. I think I said Mastrosimone.
well, no, that's not quite right.
No, not quite. So I apologize for that. That's why okay. I said you say your last name because I'm terrible.
Mastrosimone. Adrien Mastrosimone is how I grew up with, but Adrien.
I'm never going to get it right, but hey, you know me. So, Adrien, we're going to talk all things Marseille Tarot and maybe some other stuff. So, first of all, how did you first get into tarot would be a good question to start with.
A good question. Yeah. How did I get into tarot as a kid? I was always attracted. The two things that attracted me as a kid was gemstones and tarot. And
gemstones. I wonder. I wonder why.
I always have stones everywhere, like in my pockets, in my bags, in my jackets. There's always stones everywhere. But I used to go and buy my. It was a time where children would go and buy their parents' cigarettes back then. And I know I look extremely young, but I'm not that young. and I used to go buy my parents their cigarettes, and there used to be next to the place where you'd buy cigarettes, there would be like a news agent, and in that shop they'd have a lot of magazines and books, and they'd had like a glass cabinet where they would sell tarot decks.
Wow!
And I was fascinated by it. And
don't get that over here. You never got that over here.
and then I asked the seller. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so interested. How does this work? How do you do?" And he said, I really remember him telling me, "Well, if you don't know what to do with it, then you shouldn't even look at them." And I thought, "Oh my God, I was even more interested in it." So what I started doing is that I started collecting the change from my parents when they would for the cigarettes, and so I started collecting the change until I had enough money to buy myself my first tarot deck.
Wow!
And that was my first, and I still have it today. It's still it's over there, and it was a Grimaud Marseille Tarot, which was the most the available tarot at the time in France. We didn't have a lot of choices. And I eventually bought it, and I was in my early teens, I think maybe like 11, 12, something like this. I can't remember exactly. And I was looking at the pictures and I was trying to read and understand about it, but of course I didn't really understand much, and it was fascinating, it was difficult. And so this is how I kind of started. And I sort of like left it aside, pick it up, left it aside. And throughout the years, then I started doing courses, and I started to read for myself and for people. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. And this is how I got into it, basically.
Wow, cool. Yes, because I understand you did you did some tarot for Treadwells bookshop in London, right?
Yes, I worked for them for a few years. I was one of their readers. I had a few days a week, and I started teaching for them as well. And when I moved away from London a few years ago, I kind of said goodbye to Treadwells, which was a bit of it was a bit sad because it became a family there.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic started, then they started putting all their courses online. So now so they contacted me saying, would you like to teach your classes again? And I said, yeah, of course. So since the pandemic started, I teach once a week, usually it's Wednesday evenings. I teach different tarot courses. So I teach the Marseille course, and I teach also a more general with tarot course based on the Rider-Waite, and then I teach like courses on spreads and lots of things. So I still work for Treadwells today.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So yeah, so well, the pandemic certainly didn't do you any harm at all then.
No.
Unlike half the country, or most of the country, I think.
I think it's been the pandemic's been very interesting for development for people, because they've been forced to take time out. And often taking time out forces you to think and to go inside and to try to find answers, because a lot of, I think we were really, I mean, we're still really wondering what the hell is going on and why is this really happening. And some of us think it's a normal process and development, and there's a lot of different things that we can talk about. I mean, we're not here to talk about the pandemic, but I think one of the results of the pandemic is that a lot of people have taken up the tarot, because they finally had the time and they were looking for answers. So people didn't want to have readings, they wanted to learn how to do their own readings. Yeah. And this is a big thing that I've noticed in the pandemic. The amount of readings went down. Less people wanted readings, but more people wanted to learn how to do their own readings.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they were looking for their own. Yeah, they were looking for their own answers, and also because they had time to learn a new skill.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I would have thought it would have been the other way around myself. I thought everybody would have wanted a reading.
Yeah, I mean, we still had readings, but I think a lot of people that would come to me for readings decided to then be like, you know what, I'm going to learn. I've got the time to do it. I'm stuck at home. And they usually had a tarot deck, and they're like, well, now it's time to learn. And now that things have opened up again, you see the balance sort of going the other way. I've got less people in classes, but more readings again.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That makes sense. Nobody's got any time again.
Exactly. People are starting to be busy again.
Yeah. So the Marseille Tarot deck apparently was originated from Italy, not France. Would you agree with that statement? Wikipedia.
So there's it's a bit okay. This is the big dilemma. Now historically we have in the museums we have one thing. Okay, so if we go by what we have in the museums, is that of course it originated in Italy, because we have the Sforza, we have all these actual decks. Now, if you're thinking about esoteric thoughts, and if you go into what we see in the cards and the possibilities, some people would argue that the tarot was actually one of my teachers would argue that the Marseille Tarot was created in Marseille around the 1st century. Okay, now of course we don't actually have any proof of that.
Wow, yeah, because we don't have any proof from, I think it's the 13th century for tarot at all, as far as I...
Exactly. So it's a very difficult. Of course, we have what's in the museums, and it's originated. What we have is the cards from Italy, and we can actually go with that, of course. But there's also the possibility that it came from much before in France. There is a point in France where a new tax was put onto card makers, and so this new tax basically had a stamp had to be present on the woodcuts So
Mm.
previous woodcuts had to be destroyed. So new woodcuts would have been made with a new stamp on it. And therefore, all previous decks were not allowed to be sold anymore. So there could be a possibility that all proofs of these decks would have disappeared because of this new tax that came in France and blah, blah. So I'm not a historian, and I'm not going to pretend to be a historian, because this is not what I do best, you know. And what I do best is get my hands dirty with the tarot and teach it, and I really love doing that. But we have to keep in mind that there is actual proofs, physical proofs that we have, and there is also the possibility that there might be more to it than what we actually have. And I think in the esoteric and magical world, it is always the case, you know, there's more
definitely
than what the eye can meet, and we have to keep an open mind. Having said that, we have to remain aware of what is physical proof and what is not, and what is a historical proof and what is not, you know. I think we can't lose ourselves as well in saying, oh yeah, I had a dream one day that the tarot came from, you know, whatever. Maybe you had the dream, that's wonderful, but
yeah, us magical people would say, yeah, a lot of our dreams, etc., more reality than what, than what a scientist or whatever would portray, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, so
and basically the Marseille, so yeah, I was going to get to that. It became called the Marseille because there was a famous card maker in Marseille, which sort of became the Convert tarot, which is a type of the Marseille Tarot, became sort of the standard for the Marseille Tarot, and it was made in Marseille. So this is why we call it the Marseille Tarot now. But the Marseille Tarot, as the tarot itself, there was a lot of card makers. Some of them were in Paris, some of them were in Switzerland, some were in Dijon, in lots of different places. So, but this is why it came to be called that, the Marseille Tarot. And I'm from Marseille originally, so.
Oh, there you go. Well, you had to do the Marseille Tarot, right? It just goes,
USP.
yeah. If there was a Brentford Tarot, I'm sure I'd be doing that.
Well, maybe you can start one.
I know, yeah. One day, many moons from now,
yeah.
when I'm about 100, I think.
You never know.
You never know. That's right. Yeah, you're right. So, yes. So tell us a bit more about how you do Marseille Tarot, or how you go about your stuff, because a lot of people do things in different ways, don't they? So tell us more about Adrien's version of you.
I'm not sure.
Told you there'd be random questions, didn't I?
Yeah. I'm not sure what's the I'm not sure about what you mean, how I do. I don't know. So yes, okay. I know where we're going with this. The way I like to read tarot is a the best way to put it is a non-fluffy way. I like to because it's very easy. No, it's not very easy. Let me rephrase that. We can quickly fall when we read tarot into very general and big ideas and big, changes there. And, we can fall into this big oracle sentences and way of speaking, which become fluffy and not precise, and not. Sometimes the client walks out of the reading being more confused than when they walked in.
Yeah.
And I think what I try to really do with my readings, either if I read with the Marseille or if I read with another deck, because I do teach as well more modern tarots with the base of the Rider-Waite Smith. I try to really make sure that the readings are quite to the point, and they cut. They're precise. So the first thing I always try to do with clients and people is to really hone the question, to find out really what is at the base of the question, you know, because sometimes there's a question, but actually underneath lies the real question, and we need to get to that point before we get the cards out. And
yeah,
I don't usually like to read general stuff.
It's a bit like lose weight, tone up. This is what I want to do. Can you help me? Well, what actually do you want? In that sense, that's a vast statement. Yeah, it's like that, right?
Yeah, it's like they come and say, they make me look fabulous, but
yeah.
like,
yeah, okay.
okay, to what standard, to which eyes? And it's the same thing with tarot. You know what? What's going on with my job? What's going on with your job? You know, you can't just. I really try to be precise, and I think this is one of the things that I pride myself in, is that when people come and see me, they walk out with either options or actual answers and a game plan, you know, where to go and what to do or how to approach a situation. And sometimes you're going to have different approaches, and sometimes you can't do anything for a situation. You just have to brace yourself and ride the wave, or sometimes you can actually influence the situation. And most of the readings you do have to do with relationships, career, and or family. These are the big topics.
Yeah.
The spiritual topics are very few people come and see you and ask you for spiritual guidance. It does happen, but usually it has to do with relationships and work. Now, how do you help someone when you start going into, like, you know, the esoteric meaning of the hangman or le pendu, or, you know, and what this might mean on the tree of life if you use this sort of system, you know? People don't give a crap about that. They want to know if the man's going to stay or leave.
Exactly.
Or, you know, that kind of thing. And you need to really anchor that sort of things in the mundane meanings in the tarot. And I think this is really what I pride myself in, to kind of be a no nonsense and no bullshit type of reader. I try to stay like this and to always go back to what the question actually is, and not to go running away in fluffy clouds and with fluffy rabbits, if that makes sense. Although I do love fluffy rabbits.
Don't we all love a fluffy rabbit?
But does that answer your question? I think this is...
Yes, certainly. Yes, I get you. So yeah. So when you do a reading, so what's your most maddest, if you like, I don't know, I'm not sure where so the most weirdest tarot art question that you've ever been asked? Have you had like really strange questions, or is like you say, is it all about marriage and
No, I've had lots of well, I don't think there's any strange questions. I think we live
well, I don't know.
I think we're in I think we are in a environment. I live in an environment, and I'm sure you do too, where nothing is strange, you know. No. And you learned
I guess not.
I think when you start, you know, things are strange, you know, like, you know, of course, you know, cards jump out, things happened, and then it is strange. And sometimes you do have very strange questions, you know. I mean, of course, you know, it goes from, you know, is this relationship going to work, or am I going to meet a man? This is the most common questions, to am I cursed? You know, and you do get things like this, and can I what is holding me back, you know, from my past? And I think often it's not really the questions which are weird or interesting. It's more what the tarot actually reveals is usually what is interesting is when it's unexpected. You think that the problem is a very superficial problem, and then actually you end up pinning the answer, the solution to the problem back to maybe a childhood trauma. These kind of things happen, or, you know, the perception of the self towards the frame of the family, the parents, or and I mean, no way a shrink, or I'm not trained or anything like it. I just read what's in the cards, and sometimes, you know, things do come up. And I think there's no weird questions. You know, I've heard somebody one time asking, does God exist? I mean,
oh my God.
yeah, I've seen
Wow.
that happening, and it's not. And funnily enough, the answer was not about God himself,
No.
or itself, or themselves, or itself. It was more about the person feeling disconnected about his own practice and his own sense of life.
Yeah.
And we found the answer.
That's it.
So I don't think there are any weird questions. I think you learn to realize that nothing is weird and everything is interconnected, and there's
That's true.
no yeah, and there's
Yeah.
no I think when you do what I do, what we do, what most people watching this video,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think weirdness is not really a word. And we realize that things can be weird when we meet some people and we start talking about certain things. And I realized that I've moved to Austria a couple of years ago. And so I started to meet new people, meet new friends. I lived in London for almost 14 years. So I had my circle of friends. I had my, you know, my theater friends. I had my artist friends. I had my magical friends. I had my, you know, and so those circles were sometimes not super defined, but I knew everybody knew me because they had been there a long time. And me being in a new city, in a new country, people, I start to sort of like give some informations about what I do, or when they come into my home, they tend to kind of look around and scratch their heads and realize that maybe that is weird for them. Then
Yeah.
I try to anchor all of this and try to show them that there's nothing weird and nothing and everything is okay. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. So what's the future for you then? What have you got lined up with the tarot specifically? I guess.
I don't have a lot of things lined up. It's funny because I rarely read for myself. I mean, of course I do read for myself, but I kind of feel like I'm not in a position right now that I need to know certain things. I kind of go, I'm in the right track. I'm I'm on the rail. My train
Right
is,
path.
yeah, and I'm on the path, and I read and I teach and I enjoy doing things like this. Besides what I do for theater, because I still work very much so in theater. I don't know what is my future with tarot. Some people keep, you know, bugging me to write a book, but I don't really have the time, and I'm not even sure what to say that hasn't been said in a book. I think what is interesting about what I do is to be in class with me and to actually practice and find and do it and see how the art is practiced. And I think the oral tradition is very important. And I think this is what I try to focus on, to actually be with people and teach and pass on something that is very valuable, something that you can't find in books. And if I spent time writing a book, then I wouldn't be doing that. Which I think it's much more valuable. It's not much more valuable. It's equally valuable than reading a very good book, but you need both. So I think the future, tarot-wise, my future keeps going in that same direction of, you know, offering readings and offering classes online and in person.
Yeah.
And this is kind of course, I think I'd love to do it full time and the only thing. And I'm trying to branch out a little bit with other divination methods, with new tea leaves readings and a bit of and yeah, I think it's fun stuff. But I'm not really offering that yet. I think I need to find ways. It's difficult for tea leaf reading, for example. You have to.
It's very old school, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, having said that, so is tarot, but hey.
Yeah, I think it's less. I think it's less common and less people do it. But
yeah, I don't
know
anybody that reads tea leaves, to be fair. Or
no,
maybe I do. Maybe they just haven't told me.
well, just try it. Like just it's
Yeah.
like any sort of divination, but you have to be with the person for this. But with tarot, you can do the Zoom stuff,
Yeah.
and but I have to say that it was very challenging to do all my readings on Zoom when the pandemic hit. And it was a very it's a much harder exercise. And so that went on for a long time. Obviously everything then went behind a computer, so you need a lot more juice to connect and distance, right? So I remember the first reading.
So do you think so you got that connection being that far away? Because that was going to be another question, like because I've seen people like typing up on Facebook, what's the future hold for me, and somebody would do a 1-card reading or something like that, and I'm thinking, because they're picking out the cards, you know what I mean? Where is their connection if you're just typing from there? It doesn't matter, so yeah.
So there's many questions, and we can talk about a few things there. So first, let me finish. The first reading I gave in person, a client that I knew, and he came over, and oh my God, like I started like because you've worked really hard to create this connection via distance, via screen. Then all of a sudden, my first client that was face to face with me, it was like, it's almost like I didn't need cards.
Oh, wow.
I still needed them, but the muscles, the connection muscles had been so strengthened via this difficult medium, which is the Zoom, that when I started giving readings face to face again, it was just it was a walk in the park. It was it was incredible. Now, the distance connection, yes, I think the distance connection does work, but you have to know, you have to be able to do so. And I think one of the things I always talk about is the spider web, the web of life. Okay, this is one of the things one of the images which I found very important, which is incredibly useful in divination and in magical thinking. A spider will know and will feel if something is touching her web, no matter how far away she is from this object or this fly coming onto her web. She will sense it and she will know what is going on. Now, if you picture the universe, the world, everything that is like a web of life, because we talk about the web of life, and if you know, and if you can connect onto this, and if you can feel from your beings that you're connected to everything, and there's lots of different exercise and trainings that you can do, then yes, you can connect at distance. Okay, now not everybody can do it. Some people are very good at it, some people have to work harder, some people just have to trust their tool. There's different ways, but I believe it is possible because I have seen the results. I do it, and people, experience the results. Now, 1-card reading, Facebook messages, and instant things. Yes and no. First of all, I don't like 1-card readings. I think a card. Let me take a look. I've got some cards with me here. What do I take? Okay. Let's take a card. Let's take Temperance. Let's take Temperance. She's right here. This is Tempérance from the Marseille Tarot. Temperance, when you step into a card, it's got thousands and thousands of scenarios and possibilities.
Yeah.
It's like a word. It's like if you say Temperance, what can we see in Temperance? We can see a wing. and you have the word wing. What do you do with the word wing? It's got a word wing in a sentence can mean so many different things, positive, negative, and all that stuff. So one card reading, I find, is impossible, because what do you do with a word? You need a phrase, you need a sentence. So what? 2 cards, you can see the relationship between 2 cards, what's happening, that's already better. And with 3 cards, you get a sentence. Okay, so the one card read, the distance one card reading, I might work for some people, I don't buy it. And I definitely do not teach that, because then we fall into, I don't know, it's not quite right, I think. Because there's a language to develop here. There's you learn how to make sentences. Why are cards in certain positions mean different things, and why this card next to this card is going to give us this result in this particular context.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think the distance things works. The email things work. I've been, when I went through certain trainings, it was really tough when the exercises was for me to answer complex questions via email.
Wow.
People I didn't know. So that is quite it's quite tricky. So when you succeed to do this,
and what are you relying on there with the emails then? So what are you actually just relying on, your own intuition and the cards?
You tap into the question. This is
right.
what you tap into. So the question is connected to a person that has asked it.
Yeah.
You don't even have the name of the person.
Yeah.
But the question is the link between you and the person. So you tap into the question comes from the person. And so this is the anchor point, right? So by having this anchor point, you give the answer and you have that connection. This is your web.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Excellent.
see?
Yeah.
So to be able to connect this way is more difficult, but it's totally doable.
Yeah.
So, different people have different skills and level of expertise, but you have to find what works for you, and you have to find what is the best situation when you give the best readings. And I mean, for me, the best situation is when somebody comes into my home, because I do my readings from my home as well, comes into the home, we have a cup of tea and we spend an hour answering questions, and you have the person and the energy is there. And it's wonderful. That is the best setting. But nowadays, we don't always get that. And I would also be, I'd like to talk about the responsibility of a reader, because somebody that asks somebody to pull a card on the Facebook feed, you don't know how important or trivial the question the person is asking you. It could seem like the question is very simple and silly, but actually this could be a very deep thing for the person.
Because a lot of people just say stuff, but what's really behind what they're saying isn't quite the same thing. And I
think this is a very difficult, it's a very tricky subject, because you could do a lot of good and you could harm people as well. And you have to be careful. You have to be careful, because divination is wonderful, but it's like, it's a double-edged sword. It's like everything. There's always 2 sides to the coin. We live in a dual universe. One does not exist without the other.
That's right. Yeah.
So to go back to the one card thing, I think each card contains so many possibilities within that card. We can have a plane flying here or a plane crashing. Just one idea. So just the one card answer for me is not good enough. Unless you're a medium. Unless you're a good medium and you can connect without tools. And I know I've met people like this, it's flabbergasting, it's kind of go, oh my God, how do you do this? But it's a different practice. It's a very different practice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what's the best thing about the Marseille Tarot as opposed to the others. I mean, they've all got their own lovely qualities, but as we're talking about the Marseille Tarot specifically, what's the good qualities that you find with the deck?
The best quality of the Marseille Tarot is the lack of ego.
Okay.
Now, we don't have any.
I've just clicked where you're going with that. I've just thought, oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, carry on. Sorry. I know.
The lack of ego. Now, we don't have, same thing with playing cards, right? We don't have, what we have is a tradition on how to read it, or how to read them. What we don't have is somebody that has written the book with the deck. Now, of course, somebody created this, and it's been a tradition that, you know, the cards have evolved throughout the centuries, and, you know, they are what they are now. But the difference with more modern decks is that the Thoth deck, for instance, or all of these other more modern decks, we know who created it, and we know, it's almost like when you use the Thoth deck, which is absolutely amazing. Don't get me wrong, I love that deck. It's fantastic.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible. It's fantastic. But
it's a bit of a minefield, actually, on that.
Yeah, but then it tells you this is how you have to read it, and it's forcing you into a corner almost, right?
Yeah.
So because and with the Marseille, it's almost more shamanic, I would say, because it becomes, then you have to enter the cards, and the cards have to become you, and you're making friends with it, and it really becomes an extension of you, or a part of you, more than more modern decks, because of that lack of ego, or because it's taken so much longer for it to get to where we know it now.
Yeah.
And because the images are more simple, in a sense, they're simpler. Sorry, more simple is not very good English. They're simpler. And they're simpler. So you have a way to have more possibilities in the cards. Same thing with the minors. The minors, they kind of look like this. You know, like here we have an ace of coins, you know, and then we have 5 cups, you know, and the possibilities are much more, it's a lot less restrictive. It's a little harder at the beginning because you don't have those nice scenes in there where you see happy people or sad people.
Right, yeah.
Now, it's a little bit trickier to get into it, but if you put a little bit of effort, the possibilities are multiplied. And the other thing which is really wonderful with the Marseille is that the colors, the way the colors and the way the figures work, they are real, they can really interact with each other. So I'm giving you an example. I've just picked 2 cards, and here we have the Hermit and Le Mans. And we really have possibilities here where there's a real conversation happening between those two. What is going on? And we can see a scene that's happening. You know, there's a story there. Whereas if you do this with other decks, you don't really have this beautiful communications and exchanges. And because of the colors, because of the way they're drawn, because of the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Because it's simple, I feel like it taps into an area of the self, which allows you to create more and to tap into your intuition, right? So it obliges you to flex your muscles a bit more at the beginning, okay? But the possibilities are endless. And this is why I like it better, the Marseille, than the more modern decks. I mean, of course, I love all tarots, and I think this, you know, looking at new tarots is, it's very exciting to see somebody else's vision. What is their what they think about a card, and that is very exciting. However, you're still working with somebody's ego.
Yeah.
And which brings me to a conversation I had with an artist I met last week, and we started drinking we had a drink and we started talking, and he started showing me some of his work, and I thought it was fascinating what he was doing. And he said, well, talk to me about tarot. And we started talking. I realized that actually he didn't really know much about tarot. You know, he knows about tarot, but he doesn't know anything about it. And then I thought, I never wanted to create my deck, because why go in to create something which is already, in my eyes, perfect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But something interesting came up, which was about, because he doesn't know anything about tarot, I thought it was an interesting exercise for me to talk to him about specific cards, for me to tell him as much as possible about my experience, the way I see things, the way I've lived them, the way what they mean for me, and him to start to put them onto paper. So it would be, I mean, it's totally egocentrical, because then it becomes really my experience, it becomes ultra subjective, right?
Yeah.
And whereas the Marseille Tarot has this objectivity in it, which is so wonderful. But then all of a sudden I understood the excitement that some people might have into creating their own decks. All right. But I think that's what's very exciting, is the idea that the artist doesn't know anything about tarot. And you feed the artist with your vision of things.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I'm creating my own deck, but it's just an idea that started to be born in my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah, generally when you have an idea popping in your head, you should just go with it.
Well, I'll have to convince him.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, all about the ego. It's the reason that I went, oh my God, because I was having a conversation the other night with a hubby, and he goes, I don't even know what we were talking about, but he said that I don't even know if I should mention which tarot deck it is, but apparently he's got his face on every single card, or every single one of the court cards and stuff. Apparently his picture, his photograph of his head is on everyone.
Really?
And I just thought that was hilarious. I thought, and I know the person is very egotistical, but you know, I want to get him on an interview next so that he can tell me that's not the case.
Wow. Okay. I didn't come across that deck yet, but
I'll text you it later. I don't want to jinx anything in case I can get him on.
I'll definitely be watching that interview. That's
for sure, right?
Yeah, no, this was, I really like this idea that there's a lack of ego in it, and that really, you can fly with it. You can really fly with it. Some people have found maybe ways to fly with more modern decks, and that's absolutely fine. But personally, I think you're the magician working with this deck. And I think this is,
I like the idea of the conversation with the cards. It was just when, because I've done your course. I've done one or two of your courses, haven't I? And I like the idea of the conversation with the cards, which you don't get that way with the other decks. You kind of have to search with all the symbolism, etc. You're searching that way rather than literally diving in. And it is a different kind of concept, isn't it?
And it becomes harder to link the cards.
It
becomes much harder to link the cards. And I think as I teach Marseille and right away Smith, more modern, when my students take both classes, they use the tools that I teach in the Marseille class, and they're able to adapt them to more modern decks as well, because then it's an ongoing tradition of tarot, right? I mean, the more you know, the better you're at something. There's no secret. And I think once you flex those muscles, then you're able to do more. And sometimes you'll be able to see the patterns in modern decks a different way, so you can link the cards better. than if you hadn't learned a way of doing the Marseille.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So, because what I often see is people reading card by card by card by card, and then they don't see a shape, they don't see a pattern, they don't see a story, they don't see a talk, they don't see and this is where people get stuck, and this is something that you can't learn in books.
No.
You know, it's something that you can only learn through examples, through somebody showing you, through making mistakes and succeeding as well, having success.
Yeah.
Yes, I think yeah.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. I don't know where we've gone with the time there. My goodness. I hope I haven't got...
How long we've been talking?
I don't know. I haven't got a clue. But yes, it's been wonderful to talk to you. So saying you can't, do you have any books that you would recommend? I always ask that sort of question. Or anything that you would recommend for somebody that's maybe a novice starting out, or somebody that would, I don't know, that needs to learn more, maybe Marseille, or is there, or tarot in general? Yeah,
so wait for 1 second. I'm going to take a couple so talk and do something.
Talk to myself. Yes, I'm good at that. I do a lot of talking to myself. So people, while he's off to get his book, what an interesting subject there. That's come out with a lot more than I thought.
I've got one more I want to share.
Oh, lovely. It's all over the place.
Okay, so a couple of books that I would recommend for English speaking, obviously, because there's a wealth of books in France that I would recommend in French. And so one of the first thing I would recommend is a book by the author called Italo Calvino. This is the French version, but the English one also exists.
Okay.
So Italo Calvino, Le Château des Destins Croisés. This is the French title.
Okay.
The Castle of the Crossed Path, it would be in English or something like this. And this is stories about people putting cards on the table as a game, and then they're creating divination, right? And awesome, so it's very interesting to see how it's used. And you see, like, he put like cards on the side, and it's very interesting. It's a different approach, and I would recommend. That is something I always recommend. The other thing I recommend is, of course, this is the French version, but there's an English version, which is the Jodorowsky book, which is the Way of Tarot. Very interesting. Jodorowsky has a very psychomagic approach, if any of you have ever heard of it. So it's all about the healing process and the freeing of yourself from society and things like this. So it's a very interesting book. It's dense, and it will take you a long time to get through it, but it's a good book. I would recommend it. It's quite interesting. A woman I really like, her name is Camelia Elias.
Camelia Elias. Okay.
And she talks about her thing is read like the devil. That's her what do you call it?
Tagline?
A trademark. Like, she has, I think her website is also called Read Like the Devil or something like this. And she does a lot of Marseille. She wrote a lot of books, and this is her Towards the Art of Reading. It's one of her books on Marseille. There's another one that just came out, which is very good. It's much bigger, and I would really recommend her stuff. It's she practices Zen, so she's all about martial art and cutting and right to the point, and she's a lot of fun, and she's not scared of her words, which is quite nice.
Oh yeah.
Another one which I really liked is from Caitlin Matthews, which is called The Untold Tarot.
Oh, okay.
Catherine Matthews. This is in English, and it's kind of the reading of the old ways. Okay, so very interesting, very good book. I would really highly recommend it. And the last one I would recommend here is a book by Ben Dove. Ben Dove used to be a scientist. And, it's quite interesting. I would really recommend these as well.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I kind of just went to my bookshelf, and when I was like, okay, this, there's a lot more. But if you're starting out with tarot, any of these books are really good, you know,
Yeah.
for the Marseille. So this is what I would recommend as a starter. I've got other stuff as well, but if you want to start putting your fingers in, it's good. The other thing you can do is also drop me an email from my website, which is adrienbritztarot.com.
Yeah.
And if you want to send me an email, I can put you on my mailing list. And when I have new courses on the Marseille that comes up, then I will let you know.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll put all these links in the comments once we've done the video, and so that everybody can come and email you straight from the video if they wish.
Yeah. So that's
brilliant.
much it. But yeah, these books I recommend them. They're very close to also what I like to teach, and they know that they're straight to the point. They're no nonsense.
Good, yeah, that's what I like. I like a bit of no nonsense.
There's enough nonsense in our world these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right, thank you so much for joining me and having this lovely chat. It's been awesome, and as usual, I've learnt loads. So thank you. And hopefully all my listeners will be just as excited as I am.
Great.
Thank you so much, and I shall speak to you very soon.
I hope so. Call me whenever you want.
I shall.
Bye.
Just trying to. Oh, there you are. So yes, that was awesome. Very, very interesting. Yeah. So yes, that was really good. So what I didn't say at the beginning, if you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, there's lots more going on. I've got a shed load of people lined up for more interviews. So if you would like to subscribe, you can find the link. You can find the subscribe button. You know where it is on YouTube if you're on YouTube, and then press the little bell, and then you'll get as soon as I have an interview come up, you'll be the first to know. And I hope you have a wonderful, fabulous day. And I shall see you all soon on the Monthly Mystical. And yes, and if you're interested, we do have a website, and I shall put up a video about all the stuff that we do. And I shall speak to you all soon. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. I'll speak to you soon.